Ubisoft is obviously in a very bad position right now. Consumer confidence in them is at an all-time low. Their products coming out really aren't special in a sea of other games that release every single week and month and year. And now a Ubisoft veteran is saying that they are hated by the public and many of their own developers. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, they have put themselves into this position. If they were creating better games, if they were listening to our feedback, if they actually were hiring people that were talented, they would not be in this position. But all I can really say is it is what it is and it's not good. You are reaping what you have sown, and apparently these veteran developers know that they are hated. They know that they are disliked by the public and their own developers, and I can't say I feel all that bad. So it says a veteran Ubisoft developer says it's hard to imagine the company returning to its glory days of back-to-back hits, but all hope isn't lost for the Assassin's Creed publisher. Now, yes, I obviously would love for this to happen. I would love for them to listen, for them to actually put money into good games, but I don't see that happening. An anonymous Ubisoft worker recently spoke with GameFile Stephen Totillo about how the publisher went from putting out several well-liked games a year to being in the position that it's in right now: 2 studio closures, 6 game cancellations, including its long-awaited Prince of Persia remake, and more project delays just this year. Now, it is crazy to see the things that they are continuing development on and the ones they are canceling. I do not trust a company like Ubisoft now, so all of their games are a massive red flag at this point. But something like the Prince of Persia remake had a lot of hype behind it. The initial images that we saw were pre-alpha, and so they were rough designs. They looked bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't fix those designs and actually try to give gamers what they wanted. Then you have Beyond Good and Evil 2, which has been in development for God knows how long now, or restarted God knows how many times. And then Project Hex is still in development, and that's the next Assassin's Creed game. But if the rumors are true that it focuses on femininity and it is about a lesbian during the witch trials, yeah, that's going to lose them money as well. So maybe they need to figure out their priorities. Like, are they truly focused more on the message over making money? Maybe it's time for them to go back to the drawing board. It says not being able to identify and fix this pattern of spiraling developments is a failure from Ubisoft management, the dev explains. No one has taken responsibility for that failure today, and the consequences fall on development teams through their internal dismantlement and ultimately layoffs. The top management walks away unscathed, questioning all but itself in this major reset. Ubisoft is now hated by a big part of the public for a decade of disappointing releases, hated by many of their own developers for years of mismanagement, hated by the market for its poor editorial and financial planning they had. With this amount of frustration on all sides, it's tough to imagine Ubisoft making a big hit ever again. Tough, but quite far from impossible. Yeah, if they actually were listening to us and they were putting a lot of time and money into the games that people want, then they could come back from this. But will that happen? I don't think so. I think it would be extremely tough for them to do, but this developer is 100% correct. Ubisoft is hated by a big part of the public. We're talking about games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, like Frontiers of Pandora. Even Star Wars Outlaws, which had their biggest marketing budget yet, was a failure. They're just not able to capture audiences' attention. And sure, maybe when they were extremely popular 15 years ago, they only got to that place because they had passionate developers, but also the market wasn't as tough. It wasn't as large. I mean, obviously, Ubisoft has been around for a very long time. They were founded in 1986, and of course, they had hits over the years that were massive, and I do think they were big just because they were simply amazing games, but there are a lot of titles that they've released over the decades where it's like, this probably wouldn't be popular if anybody else was releasing it. And I think it's so funny that this conversation is happening now when Ubisoft is getting so desperate, they are doing things like releasing Assassin's Creed Unity 60 FPS updates on consoles, which, hey, I think is good for the people who want to play Unity, but you're sitting here and updating a game that came out in 2014 because you are trying to sell copies of it since your latest game didn't sell as well as you were hoping. We have seen a image of the Black Flag remake, and they know that a remake like that is going to sell because it is a fan favorite. But again, it's because their latest releases are not making the money that they expected, so they have to go back to the well and they have to try to find a way to stay afloat. And sure, I get that there are a lot of people who are going to buy this game now and they're going to talk positively about it. I'm not saying it's a bad game by any stretch of the means, but you'd think that they would be greenlighting more DLC for Assassin's Creed Shadows if it truly did as spectacularly as the media wants you to believe, but they've got their developers working on this. This right here highlights just how screwed they are. Ubisoft has lost nearly 95% of its value in the last 8 years after 34% share price drops due to its major reset. And I don't think that this major reset is even going to save them. They can cancel a bunch of projects, they can go through layoffs, but the issue is number one, they are not hiring back veterans. And I do think that it is pretty good that they've got people in charge of Assassin's Creed now who worked on things like Origin and Black Flag, which are, of course, very positive Assassin's Creed games and fan favorites, but it's been a long time since they've made games, or their last games that they worked on were things like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. So I am cautiously optimistic there, though it's better than who was running it before. And at the same time, they are not greenlighting the games that people have actually asked for, and they're wasting these opportunities. People had been asking for well over a decade for an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, and what do we get? Something that came and went very quickly. So this was back in January, but Ubisoft had announced that it was undergoing a major reset, which saw the company cancel 6 games, including the Sands of Time remake, delay another 7 unannounced titles, and that included the Black Flag remake, and they were entirely restructuring the company's whole operating model. Though, we found out that the company's share price had dropped by 34%, and what's worse is that after the major drop, the company's market cap sat around 500 million euros back in 2018. Its market cap was closer to 10 billion euros, which means that in just the last 8 years, Ubisoft has lost somewhere in the range of 95% of its value, which is pretty sad and pretty freaking pathetic. We do not know who this developer is exactly that has come out and said that the Assassin's Creed developer is hated by the public and many of their own developers, but I can't say I'm shocked. Everybody at the company probably feels like their job is on the line and that they could wake up tomorrow, go into work, and get fired. There are developers who are putting years of time and work and effort into games that are just being shelved and will probably never see or hear about again. And at the same time, gamers are getting below average quality experiences when Ubisoft is putting hundreds of millions of dollars into every game release. So I will be covering Ubisoft more in the future. I am certain. I am trying to follow the news with them as best to my ability as possible. But, well, everything we're hearing about Ubisoft is bad, and again, I'm not going to shed a tear for them. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.